You often hear people talking about the self in the sense of trying to find myself, lose myself, trying to express myself, but what are they really talking about when they're talking about the self? I'm going to talk about the self through an internal family systems lens today, and I'll give you a few creative strategies to return to self when you feel like you've strayed. Internal family systems therapy is a modality of psychotherapy that I have personally found to be the single most impactful modality in both my personal work and in the work I do with my clients. It was developed by Richard Schwartz, and there are a few great books out about internal family systems if you want to check them out for more information. My favorite and the most recent being No Bad Parts. Internal family systems talks about parts in relationship to self and differentiates that we all have a core self, which is the essence of who we are at our most basic core, and we develop parts as we come into experiences with life that either challenge us or make us fragment away from true self in experiences of feeling unsafe or traumatized or sort of dysregulated in the world. So the parts that can fractal off are usually very protective of us, and they don't want us to ever feel the way that we felt when the hard experience happened. So they turn into kind of protectors or sometimes exiles. If a part develops that is so fragile and dysregulated that the protectors fear that it will imbalance the entire system if it gets loose. Now, I have some other videos on protector parts and exile parts, so feel free to check those out for more information. But today, I wanted to talk about self. In the internal family systems model, self has a few specific qualities. In fact, 5 P's and 8 C's. Now, these are easy ways to kind of group the qualities of self energy, and here they are. The 5 P's of internal family systems are persistence, perspective, presence, playfulness, and patience. And the 8 C's of self are compassion, clarity, curiosity, courage, connectedness, creativity, calmness, and confidence. When you group together the 5 P's and the 8 C's, you get a really good picture of what self energy feels like. And it is a felt experience that happens in the body. Self is like home. It feels like who you truly are under all the masks you wear, under all the layers that you project into the world based on who you think you're supposed to be, who other people want you to be, and who you've developed yourself to be in response to trauma, hard experiences, and just basically the rhythm of life. It's important that we return to self energy as often as we can, because this is a place where we are self-resourced, we are stable, and we feel grounded and secure in our being. Now, it's not possible for someone to stay in a self all the time. It just isn't. We're humans and we fractal off into parts when we feel like we need to. But the important part in internal family systems work is to always return to self. And we do this with awareness and with thoughtfulness. So when you can notice that a part of you is activated, maybe it's an anxious part, maybe you're noticing, wow, I feel like my heart is really beating fast, my mind is really spinning, my anxious part is here to let me know that what I'm about to do right now doesn't feel really comfortable for me, or I'm going out of my territory of expertise here. So the part of you that can see the anxious part is self. When you can see something as a part, you are not over-identified with that quality, and you can build the curiosity, the compassion, the rest of the C's and P's in relationship to that part and help that part come back into balance and harmony within your system. The entire intention and goal of internal family systems work is to create harmony and balance in the system. And this is kind of a consistent interplay between parts and self, and parts being held with love by self. So it can be difficult sometimes to learn how to come back to self when you've strayed into parts, especially parts that have been well developed and habituated throughout your life, parts that you tend to spend a lot of time being flooded by. Think about what those might be for you. Maybe you spend a lot of time in anxiety. Maybe your depressed part is really dominant. Maybe you have a rigid part that helps keep things in control, or a sarcastic part that dumbs down your emotions and helps you feel numb. Whatever your parts are, try not to think of them as bad. Try to think of them as aspects of yourself that really love and care about you and are trying to keep you safe. Here are 3 examples of how you can come back to self. I'll give you one example that's somatic, which is body-centered, one that is art-based, and one that is writing-based. For our somatic example, I want you to close your eyes and just sense into your body. Notice your physical body, how you can feel your body, if there's pain, if there's tingling, a sense of temperature awareness. And then see if you can notice your mental space, where your thoughts are going. And then see if you can notice your emotional space. How does your heart feel today? What feelings are present? Now I want you to start to identify, just by simply observing and noticing. There's no wrong way to do this, so let go of your resistance and any expectation that you'll do this wrong. And see if you can just observe. Just notice what's here. And when something feels like a part, when you notice anxiety, when you notice your organizing part, thinking, oh, I gotta do this, oh, I gotta do that. See if from a place of self, noticing that compassion and clarity, curiosity, all of these qualities can be looked at in direction to the part. And see if you can start to notice the part as separate from you as a self. Come into contact with the you that is witnessing the part and holding it in the space of self-energy. See if you can come into felt experience with what home feels like inside of your body, within your emotions, embedded in your thoughts. Just take a moment to give yourself the experience of witnessing from self with the 5 Ps and the 8 Cs. I'll list them off for you one more time while you just see if you can witness them. Creativity, curiosity, calmness, confidence, clarity, connectedness, courage, compassion, persistence, perspective, presence, playfulness, and patience. You can return to the somatic exercise when you have more time and see if you can continue to just witness the parts of you as they pop up and return to the felt experience of home in your mind, body, and heart. Now for our art-based experience. I'd like you to take out any materials that you like to work with. It could be collage, drawing, painting, anything else. And I want you to create an image that represents your experience of self. Now, returning back to the 5 Ps and the 8 Cs, see if you can create imagery that really captures the essence of that playfulness, that compassion, the connectedness, the perspective of who you are in your self-energy. Now, your image does not have to be realistic. It can be abstract. See if you can use color, line, and shape to really resonate what self feels like. Now, an example of this might be if your self feels warm and radiant, you may find an image or draw one of a light or a burning flame. If self feels curious and light, maybe there's a sense of bubbles or a popping sensation that you can capture on paper. Once you have self that's created and developed, I'd like you to create little spokes that come off of your self image and create images of some of the most dominant parts that you notice you kind of fall into. So going back to our examples from before, you may want to have a little circle that represents your anxious part, or another one that represents the organizer part. And just notice that they are connected to self, but they are not self. Self is something all on its own, and from its center perspective, it can witness all the different parts of the system without getting blended with them. Feel free to develop this art exercise as much as you want and take it in your own direction. There's no right way to do it. Now for our writing exercise, I'd like to offer you the experience of writing and dialogue with true self. Now, a dialogue is just like any other conversation that you can have in your life or in your mind where you have two parties present. So I'd like you to choose two different colored pens and sit down with a piece of paper. Now, wherever you're at in the moment, identify a part, whether it's, gosh, I'm feeling really present, really curious. Maybe this is a part that's an inquisitive part of me, or I'm feeling skeptical. This is going to be, a difficult exercise. I'm not going to be able to get the hang of it. That would be your skeptical part. Now that's going to be your first color. So I want you to just write a question from that part. It might be, why are we doing this exercise? This is really silly. Or it might be, I wonder what I'm going to learn from this. Who's there? Who's on the other side of this conversation? And then with the second color, that's going to represent self. So with that color, you can return the answer to the part's question and try to access that energy of the 8 C's and the 5 P's and just write back. You don't have to think too much about it. This is like stream of consciousness writing where it does not have to be overly analytical. It can just be what you feel. Think of it as sort of channeling from that home place within you. So an example of this might be that the skeptical part says, this is really ridiculous. Why should I do this? And then self responds by saying, because we care about learning about our system. So why don't you open your mind and get curious? And then the skeptical part responds again and says, whenever I open my mind and get curious, I'm always disappointed. And then self can respond to that by saying, let's never give up. Let's keep trying. Maybe there's something here that you didn't see before. Think of a question. And then the skeptical part can say, okay, well, why am I here? Why am I so skeptical? And then the self energy can respond. Now go back and forth for at least a page, maybe more. You can do this dialogue process in so many ways. There's no right or wrong way to do it. So release any self-judgment or criticism, those parts that are letting you know that this feels kind of new and scary, and see if you can just develop a relationship between the two parts and have a deeper understanding of the way self works with parts. I hope that these experiences were helpful for you today. Feel free to drop me a line and let me know, and I'll see you next time.